am I happy? And I'm like, well, no, I'm always anxious. I always did the best I could at the expense of better opportunities. We're over-financed intentionally. Another thing we look for is simplicity in process. You running a business or you in the business? Look, it's all about networking.
Hey everyone, Dave Menz, Laundromat Millionaire, coming to you for another great episode of the Laundromat Show from Cincinnati, Ohio. I'm with a new friend of mine, and I know everybody knows him, but the fact of the matter is, I just got to meet him recently, and so I'm excited for those few of you in the industry that don't know this rock star. I'm excited to introduce you to him and let you get to know him, because I now consider him a friend, and I know he does the same. We are super, super excited for sure. And so let's just jump right into it, because I know that me and this guest, we're going to have a few things to say today, Carla.
All right. So today's guest is Todd Fener. He is the owner of the Laundry Owners Warehouse Distributorship in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. He has been in the business since 2007, is a multi-store owner, and does business all over the world. So Todd, welcome today. It's so great to have you.
Carla, thank you. I hope you know what you're in for.
She doesn't, but I do.
Dave does. Dave definitely does. I hope this to be one of the best, if not the best, in terms of information and fun. Whatever you'd like to know, it's my pleasure to share it with you.
We love an open book.
Yep, absolutely. And you probably didn't notice at Elevate, Todd, but I tend to be kind of a little bit of an open book. You probably hadn't noticed, but I do. So that's kind of what the show's all about. It's about me being me and Carla trying to keep me from being me. That's really what the show's all about.
I understand.
She's like reining him in a little.
Rein him down a little bit.
May I interject?
Yes, go ahead.
So it's well known that you can be considered irascible to some. It's a fact.
Sure.
And as a person from Ohio, I would say that would be understandable. But the moment I understood that you're a Detroit kid, not only does it make sense, but boy, it makes you proud of another Detroit kid doing what they do.
Yep.
And I think that people aren't seeing it from that perspective. And that's why you have what you have. As a kid from Queens, it's our birthright to bust chops. You know what I mean? Detroit's even more so. It's the birthright of a person from Detroit to stick his finger next to you, not touch you, but next to you and pick a fight playfully. Because at the end, you're both just two kids on the playground, right?
That's right.
And
I keep trying
there's no ego. There's no, it's just two kids having fun, trying to be good.
I tell Carla all the time, I'm just being playful. And she's like, well, quit playing. You're an adult. I don't know. This is just who I am, man. I don't apologize for it.
No growing up. I refuse to grow up. Hold on. All right, this is my business desk. I'm just saying I have Nerf guns.
Nerf guns.
So there's no growing up whatsoever.
So your staff knows if they walk into your office, they could be ambushed at any moment.
Well, more likely they'll ambush me, but what we really use it for is, at 3 o'clock, I drink too much coffee as it is. So at 3 o'clock, whether it's a little bit of sugar or something, when your blood sugar goes low, it ends up being a bit of a dead hour a lot of times. Maybe it's contemplative, but more often than not, it's a dead hour for everybody. So what we do is it's a longer story, which I can glad to tell you, but Nerf guns help because like at 3 o'clock, you play a little Nerf for 5 minutes, you laugh, you tell a joke. It goes a long way into getting that last, maybe you get a half hour of that last hour, but it's full of joy and excitement, something fun. And it's really great at diffusing a situation because, sometimes you're upset about something and you don't want to say anything or you do, and it's always playful. It's never, to get somebody, but it's like, I can't believe you just did that. And then the moment you've, shot them playfully with a Nerf dart from 10 feet away, that stress, it really does. It relieves that stress and then you go on. So, I hope it works.
That's
I think
actually That's a
awesome,
fantastic point. And I'm just going to call out right now that guys, I knew of Todd because, as I said, he's the man, the myth, the legend. But I didn't know Todd until recently when I went to the Elevate conference out in California. And Todd and I, in my words, kind of clicked. For sure. And what do we do? Next thing you know, we sat on the patio for 5 hours till midnight and talked until everybody was asleep except for us almost.
Yeah.
And he's just a good dude, guys. Good dude. So if you don't know him, you need to get to know him. And he just happens to love laundromats as much as me. And there aren't too many people I've met that are that way. So pretty cool. I'm super excited. And just from a networking and a conference perspective, everybody knows that we have the Laundromat Millionaire Conference coming up March 2nd through the 4th in Fort Lauderdale. It's in Todd's backyard, not literally, but figuratively. Todd's going to be there. So if you want to meet Todd and get to know Todd, and by the way, if you go, you're going to meet him whether you want to or not. That's
I'm there. You'll know I'm there.
So anyway, the thing I'll say about it is one of the most, I mean, a lot of good people in my life, one of the most genuine, big-hearted individuals that I've ever met, which is why we clicked and talked so well. And as I mentioned in the beginning, well worth the investment of me going down to the Elevate event just in getting to know Todd better. But guys, if I can point something out to you, that's the power of networking, right? That's the power of these conferences, whether you're online or in person or at Clean Show or our conference, whatever it is. That's how I've learned what I've learned, is connecting with people that are powerhouses, that are passionate about this industry. It's how we went from a net worth of less than $50,000 to being multimillionaires, quite honestly. Are you renovating your store or building a new one? Tired of persistent and expensive plumbing issues like I was? Get an HM Company drain trough to give those drain lines a fighting chance against the constant wear and tear of laundromat life. Sizing is fully customizable to meet your needs, and lead times are a maximum of 2 weeks. I've used them in my stores in Cincinnati for years, and I'm installing them in my new store, which is opening soon. Visit their website today at draintroughs.com and contact your distributor to order your drain trough today. All right, listen, I'm going to rewind me because I got too excited. Tell us a little bit about your backstory. Tell us about your upbringing, as much as you want to share with us. What made Todd into who he is today? And then I want to hear about this. For those of you that are listening today, we're going to get to the laundry stuff and the small business stuff, but Todd has a former life on Wall Street. That's I was really interested in some of the things Todd told me about lessons he learned and things like that along the way. We won't spend all day on it, but I would like to hit on it for a few minutes. But what was little Todd like? Were you like, let me guess, were you like low energy, just sat on the couch all the time, just watched TV and never got up or did anything?
Yeah. I was a walking head for Xanax. Yeah. No, I was this. I'm 50. I'm almost 50. Can you imagine me at 11? I mean, come on.
No, I can't.
Were you like a commercial for ADD medicine?
I'm the poster child, if ever there was.
Oh my goodness, this is going to be so fun.
So I'm not 100%, but I'm fairly sure that I could find it even. My report card from Mrs. Burns in 3rd grade said, if Todd could only slow down to 55 miles an hour, he'd be the brightest student in class. It's the truth. So I've always had whatever this gene is. Then it's really, at its heart, I guess, at a high-priced psychiatrist to tell you it is my father passing at a young age and looking for my father's approval. I guess that would be the, if you had to like put on a paper, that'd be the one, which I acknowledge, it's certainly true. And I have whatever that desire is and that dream and that burning. I can't sit still. I mean, I'm by every means an addict. And so I have to just change my addictive behaviors to things that I enjoy. So whether it's laundry and working 12 hours a day, or it's, shopping government auction sites for whatever interests me, that's how I fill my day. So getting back to my story, that died when I was a kid. My mother is Catholic. My mother was Catholic. My father Jewish. I grew up in a Jewish household because my father's parents, we were close with them, so we spent a lot of time. My mother was adopted with a very tough backstory and a very tough childhood. She was the salesperson. My father was the quiet. Well, what she meant was kind of person. I certainly got my mother's drive. I think hopefully I got my father's demeanor in terms of respect and understanding. By the time I was 12 or 13, I was telling my parents I'm sleeping at a friend's house and a friend was sleeping at my house. And I was taking the Q44 bus to the F train to get us at 34th Street because I thought that's where I was supposed to go to Rockefeller Center. What I really should have done is get off at 50 something or other, 57th. But anyway, and I would go and get $30 a night, at 13 years old, 2:00 in the morning, I'd be on the train sometimes. I would. And I was scalping tickets and selling fire, whatever the hustle I could find was, I was doing it.
You were the stereotypical New York hustler.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, I would say so. And stereotypically, maybe not with as much long-term vision as a New York hustler might be. I grew up, I hung out with a tough crowd. I did, mom wasn't around very much, dad's not there. And so I have friends that spent, 25 years in jail for murder. They did. Brian Watkins, it's a big case. And just to fast forward, let's just say to college, I went to NYU. So I wasn't an idiot. And I was certainly, school came relatively easy. Not that I was a great student, but I could always do okay. And so I was going to a great school. And my childhood friends were still just, just being knuckleheads like I was. No different. I was the same kid doing the same stupid things as a misguided youth that, I can't say I regret, because how do you blame a 13-year-old kid for what he did, right? Nobody's watching him. How's that my fault, right? So that was a tough one that maybe in my 50s I've only, or my 40s I've come to terms with. So I was in school, and my friends, my knucklehead friends, on the newspaper, I wake up one morning and there they are. They're all in jail for a murder. Yeah. Now, here's the interesting thing. I always knew I was going to get out of the hood. I swear to you, at 13 years old, I was reading books about finance. No one told me to. It was just whatever. I had the bug. There was I'm not special. It was just what I had. And so I knew I'd get out of the hood. So I was always the kid that'd be like a block or two away. I was never the kid that was going to do the thing. I wasn't breaking into somebody's house. I wasn't robbing somebody, but I'd be on the other corner watching it and ignoring it. Or I'd be the kid up on the train station waiting for him to come. And my buddy was there. Okay. My buddy was just like me in the sense that neither of us were going to, quite commit those types of crimes. And we both had plans for our future. And the long story short, he was falsely accused and he spent 23 years out of 25 in jail. Johnny and Copy. Legit. It's the day it changed my life.
Wow.
It changed my life. I'm like, wait a minute, that could have been me.
How did that change your life?
Well, I guess I have to back up just a little bit. I was already, I'm going to have to tell a little bit of a different story at that moment. I was already at NYU. I was living on 10th and Broadway at Brittany Hall at 55 East 10th Street. It's a magnificent place. As a matter of fact, you'll meet Max. He lives right around the corner. He was at Excellence Elevate. Forgive me for the name change. It was amazing. So I was already going to school. And I was working uptown at a restaurant. My father's friend, was partners with Rusty Staub, the old baseball player from the Mets. Okay. So I'm at school and I know what I want to be. I knew in 8th grade when the movie Wall Street came out that I was going to go from being a lawyer to working on Wall Street for no real reason other than it just, it interested me.
Bud Fox. All right, Bud Fox. I want you to buy 20,000 shares of Blue Star at 15 1/8, 3/8 tops. And don't screw it up, sport. Think you can handle that?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. You won't regret this.
And I thought there's a lot of money in it. And I hate to admit this. No, I don't hate to admit it. It is embarrassing to admit, but this is the truth. In 8th grade, I wrote a paper I did a presentation for my class, I don't remember which, on Ivan Boesky. And at the time, he was the guy that was parking all the money and he was just doing financials. It wasn't so much fraud as it was shenanigans. Okay. And I wrote in my paper, I'm like, look, this guy got away with, $600 million. They fined him $300 million of what they found. So he spent 2 years in a minimum security for $150 million a year. I think I'd do that. Now, I did. That was my report. And my mother thought it was interesting. I did.
Wow.
I don't mention this is who I am and this is my integrity, but this is the truth of where I grew up with. I mean, this is real. So, right. So that was my mindset. And I also found out that you had to go to do postgraduate work. And I didn't want to go to be a lawyer, too much reading back then. As a kid who wants to read. So Wall Street was it. I saw Michael Douglas in Wall Street. I figured I could do that. Okay. So now I'm at school. I'm studying finance. And I work at 73rd Street and 3rd Avenue, which is the Upper East Side of Manhattan. And people would come in all the time and offer me jobs. This will matter in just a second. So it's a cold winter's day and people would always come in and I had a shtick. I was working the restaurant. People would ask, what kind of beer do you have? And I'd say, Bud Light, Molson Golden, Molson Light, Heineken, Bass, Beck's, Michelob Dry, Mountain Dew, Sports Timer, and Bud Dry. And I said, I'll bet you $5. I can do that backwards. He said, you're on. I put my money. He put his. I swear to you, I did this. I said, Bud Light, Molson Golden. I took his money. And then put it back on the table. And I said, seriously, I can do it. No games. And I did. I can't anymore. And I did it. And that was part of my shtick to, get people to like me more as I'm serving them.
Yeah.
He offered me a job on Wall Street and I knew that's what I wanted. So I'm like, oh my gosh, this is great. And he gave me a phone number and it was on a napkin because he didn't have a card with him. It was a Sunday. Okay. So he says, call me whenever you want. That was Monday morning. I call at maybe it was 6:30 or 7 o'clock. I don't really remember. I called the number, no answer. I call maybe every 5 minutes or so from 7 to like 7:30 or 7:40. I'm not exaggerating either. It was back when even in your dorm room, you had a phone. You had a regular phone.
Back then you had to actually dial the numbers.
Oh yeah. Sure. So he tells me, so finally he picks up the phone and he says, who the F is this calling me this many goddamn times? I go, hi, Mr. Carla, this is Todd. We spoke yesterday. You came to the restaurant and you mentioned that, to give you a call. He goes, yeah, I know who you are. I'm at 55 Water Street, 35th floor. Come when you want. Hangs up. Doesn't say goodbye, Todd. Doesn't give me time to confirm it. That was it. Okay. Now, this is long before Google Maps and anything else. I'm living on 10th and Broadway. I take the N train downtown to Whitehall Street. Or might have been the 4 and the 5 transfer to Whitehall Street. I get off at Whitehall Street. I don't know where I'm going. Who has a map? You know, it's you don't know. So this was another moment in my life. So I hailed a cab and I said 55 Water Street. And I was in a bit of a hurry and a bit nervous. And I didn't say it very nicely. I was a bit of a jerk off. I don't remember exactly, but I know my tone wasn't pleasant. The guy looked at me, paused for a second. He says, okay, takes the thing, moves the lever, and he takes me 1 block. Turned to left, and it was right there. And what I learned at that moment to the rest of my life, I tell the story, was there's never a reason to be a jerk off. There's just never. You know, had I just been a half a gentleman, not even a regular gentleman, just half a gentleman, that guy would have told me. And that was, it sits with me like it was yesterday, and that was 30-something years ago. Like I could feel it.
Powerful message there. Really is.
Yeah. Like, you know, I find often that all of the messages are the same, right? Eat less, exercise more, be a good person, whatever. It's the stories that I can relate to, that I capture the best, that are whatever, that resonate the most with me. Those are the ones, it's all the same story, right? It's all the same values. It's just which story at that moment are you going to believe? So now, back to Manhattan. So I get on the cab driver drops me off the block. I get up to the 35th floor at 55 Water Street, and I said to the ma'am, oh, wait a minute. Now, I'm a kid from Queens, and I swear to you, what do I know from anything? I'm wearing, when I tell you, it was a teeny collared white shirt with huge pockets. And I mean, they took up like the whole pocket. Wait a minute. I have on my gabardine work pants that have oil stains all across the bottom where the cuffs are. I'm wearing, I swear to you, it's only shoes I had, Doc Martens with the yellow stitch. I mean, that's what I could come up with. Now, I did have on a very nice London Fog black trench coat, which made it easier to conceal what I was really wearing, and a nice striped tie. Okay. It's 9:30, whatever time it was. I don't really remember, say 9:15. And I said, hi, ma'am, I'm here to see Howard Pra. My name is Todd Fener. Okay. She calls somebody up, says, okay, he'll be with you when he has a chance. Okay. Now, every minute, a single minute while you're waiting for an interview and you're 19, 18 years old is a lifetime. I mean, it was a lifetime. There's no phone to look at. There's no, there's the one magazine that you've already read in 10 seconds. And, 9:15, 9:30, 9:45, it's like 10 o'clock. And that could have been a lifetime. And I said to the man, because I don't want to piss anybody off, I said to her, ma'am, would you mind to me ring him again? Maybe he did, he might have gotten caught up with something he might have forgotten. She doesn't even look up at me. She says, sir, he knows you're here. He'll come out when he's ready. So what do you do? Right? That's
you
it.
Wait.
You wait. Right, that's it. You wait. 10:15, 10:30, 11, 11:15, 11:30. Finally, somebody else comes out. It wasn't Howard. He says, oh, by the way, have you had lunch yet? He says, hi, I forget his name. Have you had lunch? I'm like, no. I'm like, that's pretty cool. I'm thinking, finally make me wait. He's like, okay, great. Come back after lunch. Let me know when you're back. I'll be ready for you. I'm like, what? So I went downstairs, got 2 hot dogs and diet soda. It was $2. And I remember thinking to myself, I have a meal plan at school. I didn't need to spend those $2. I didn't. But I did. Came back, whatever it was, later, 15, 20 minutes later. Again, I asked for Howard. Now, this time, the person that I had met that said, come back after lunch, greeted me. I walked back to behind, past the doors and to his office. He says, before you sit down, he shakes my hand. He said, congratulations. Because that's how that's our interview process for Howard. Do you have the tenacity to do it? So what I did for Howard for a while was I was a cold caller. The Wall Street movies like that. Mm-hmm. It's not that far off, although it isn't quite that, that crazy. But the idea is that you just call people you didn't know. And I happen to, be tenacious. I happen to be fairly quick on my feet. And I swear to you, look, I knew that 100,000 and a million were a lot more than 10,000. I knew that at 19. I'm not stupid. But I also didn't have any place that I could emotionally anchor the difference between the two. Neither with any of, what's the difference? I'm not going to have either anytime soon. So what's, I know a yacht costs more, but by how much? It's a number. I mean, I meant that. So it really did give me a leg up that I didn't understand at the time, which was I wasn't afraid to ask for any number because there was no difference. There was just no difference at all. So I had some success. And that was my start on Wall Street. Now, I had a good job. I was going to school. Things were great. But all I had to go, am I going to have a career or not? So I had to leave school. I chose to leave school. I shouldn't have had to. And I did it. And I studied for my test, the Series 7 in 63, on the train ride to and from work.
Let me ask you a question, Todd. So you went through I'm just going to call it, for us in Ohio, the Wall Street hustle, right?
Oh, yeah.
You grew up in that hustle. You experienced that hustle. And you explained to me when we were in Elevate, we talked about this for a while. You explained to me that you made a lot of money and that you learned a lot of lessons and that it kind of changed you.
Oh yeah.
Can you just real briefly touch on that?
Oof.
What are some of the lessons you learned?
Oh. Well, first of all, I was full of shit. I'm sorry. Warren, now what's funny is no matter how many times I tell my friends, everybody wants the ego of having a broker. Everybody wants the whatever. Warren Buffett tells you, Munger tells you, buy low cost mutual funds, right? The Vanguard type, and just balance appropriately. And when times are bad, put more money in, never take it out. And that's it. Okay. And there's no broker out there. Oh, I shouldn't say that. There are many great brokers who do no things. So that's not fair. I'm only going to speak on behalf of myself. But even Warren Buffett said that they're the most overpaid people in the country. And I have to agree with him because we don't really know. We can have our best ideas, but how can you have new ideas every day and understand them? How am I a salesman and the guy that researches them? I understand the laundry business and I look at companies like EVI or Alliance, right? And no matter how much I study them, I can only know so much. Now, I may know some people that have some, they're not going to give me inside stuff, but I might have an idea of what they're doing. But even then it's information and you still can't really grasp an entire company. Right, let alone 10 of them all over the world. So, I had to come to terms with that, but I didn't know it as a kid. The kid, they say this is the one to sell. I could rah because I believed every second of it, and my customers believe me because I believed it. I've always believed in whatever I sold.
Was there a point in this journey where you kind of had I call them an aha moment, where you had an aha moment where you're like, this isn't for me?
Ooh. I can tell you the pain. For sure, the pain for me was every single day in my solar plexus, from the time I left work till I get to my desk, I would have an uncomfortable feeling right here. And then I wouldn't have it on Friday nights or all of Saturday, but Sunday afternoon, this thing came. And if you talk to most brokers, they'll tell you they have it. It's this, because you don't really know what tomorrow brings, right? It isn't like I'm going to sell you something and you're going to get 6 pencils in the morning, right? Mm-hmm. It may or may not work depending on things that you can't control, right? Mm-hmm. And so here you are, you've got to you got to give it your best and hold them steady, but you never win. And so it's like, now, the aha moment, I was just living it for so long and I wasn't happy. I was examining what happiness was. And it wasn't this. It just wasn't this. And, I wish I had that 1 second I could say, well, this was the time I realized it, but it was over years of me finally coming to terms with, I left when I was 33. So I guess about 30, as I'm doing a reflection in my life, it was like, am I happy? And I'm like, well, no, I'm always anxious. And I looked for businesses that I liked. In 2005, I looked at Laundromats at the Orlando Clean Show, where, by the way, I met Paul Pettifer. Wait, hold on.
Really?
Oh, yeah. And I got to tell you something.
Oh, shout out to Paul.
Yeah, it's Paul's website.
All right.
Paul's
fantastic. Website. Fantastic.
So I met him, and I got to tell you something. I think this happens to me too. I met him. I'm like, nobody's really that much of a good dude. I felt like it was too much. First time I met him though. So it's not like, and can I tell you, never once that he's more than that. And you almost think, can that really be? Yeah, I know it is. He is that. Remember meeting him and some other people and thinking, in financial services, there are only so many really, wealthy people. So you're fighting often for the same customers. You are, right? In the same, everybody in your 10-mile area who's got money, there's only, 50 of them that you want to hunt. And there's 30 people trying to get those 50 bodies. Okay. Mm-hmm. So it can be cutthroat at times, or at very least not affable. And in laundry, everybody's willing to help everybody out. As a matter of fact, I can argue, and I believe rightly, that a good competitor is actually better for you than a bad one. And you might say, well, what do you mean? Well, a good competitor is going to still have their own prices, whatever that might be, and they'll have their value proposition. That's great. What I see is somebody comes in, whether they overspent or whatever, they come in, they try and compete, then they realize that they can't, so they lower prices, and I'm still not moving mine, and they go out of business. Next person tries it, they do their thing. I'd rather have one steady competitor that's decent at what they do than 3 of them that come in and out because there's just too many sales. So to that effect, my business partner here, one of my business partners here at Laundromat Warehouse is a guy that was my closest competitor in a laundromat. Right? Really? To talk about that. Yeah, absolutely. So 2008, I feel I'm jumping around a little bit, but in 2008, I got hit like everybody else, and I ran out of money, and I thought I had a pretty decent amount saved away, without killing my lifestyle. Mm-hmm. And I needed money to do more stores. And so I identified who the best person out there was. And I knew where they were going to be, quite frankly, at a CLA event. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to meet him there and introduce myself. He wasn't the only one on my hit list, but I knew he'd be there. And I did. The very next day, he came to my store after we'd never met before. And within like a week or 2, we were in business. We had an agreement by a handshake. To this day, we've done whatever deals on a handshake. There's not a single piece of paper that says it's a handshake. To this day, I do it on a handshake.
So at that point, let me make sure I get this right. So at that point, you had a laundromat, and you became business partners with this person, or were they a distributor? What?
No. It's just an investor with a lot of stores, a person that has a lot of their own stores. And I felt they'd be easier to convince in a market where no one was lending money. I mean, Bank of America, you could have an 820 credit score for 6 months or so, 7 months, wasn't lending anybody. Didn't matter how much you had at the bank, they weren't lending. So, when the Fed closes the window, the banks close their window, and all of a sudden you're done. Well, how about you go to a guy that's got a lot, that maybe doesn't need the Fed to,
So he became your bank.
He became my partner, more than my bank. Yeah,
your partner. Okay.
There's a friend who doesn't want their name, an acquaintance who doesn't want their name mentioned, but I think he put it best when he said, he's the briefcase. Proverbially, obviously. But yeah, he became my financier and partner. And since then, we've done however many deals together, including the distributorship. So it's been just all on a handshake. To this day, I have deals with people that have been in business 40, 50 years, and we do most of it on a handshake. It's still out there.
So how long were you just a store owner before you decided to enter into having your own distributorship?
From January 2007 to June 2013. And my wife, ex-wife now, who's an amazing woman. I mean, we get along great. We still travel together with the kids, like amazing woman. She just said to me, because I'm a control freak and everything has to be perfect. I swear to you, I was at whatever time it was before this, running however many stores, 4 or 5. And I would take acrylic paint, so oil-based acrylic. And once a week, I would go to wherever like the Formica would ship, and I would put my hand over it, just like I was a freak. And it was overwhelming, and it was of no value. I don't say this like, wow. It's not. It was of it was past diminishing returns. There was almost no return. I would even say it's a negative effect because it was hurting my quality of life. But when you're passionate and it doesn't matter what it is, you just do whatever it is. You don't think. So my wife at the time, she said to me, look, you're not going to do this anymore. This isn't working. So, okay, fair enough. And she's very easy and understanding. So, I took the message, and I wanted to do something where I could excel. I had a lot of knowledge, and I could sit in the same desk, which I do, but yet keep growing and challenging myself, because I get bored kind of easy. Like, laundries are fun, and I love finding them and redoing them. But the minute it's down to the collection and the weekly stuff, it's like, I don't enjoy it. Some people do. It's just not what I enjoy.
Yeah.
So, here
was there Todd, was there a gap in the market? Like, from a distributorship, you decided running laundromats wasn't for you. You clearly wanted to stay in the industry.
For me. It just wasn't what I wanted to do day to day. I mean, I still think that they're much better than distribution. They're not even in the same realm.
Right. Okay. But what attracted you to distributorship? Did you just look in your market? Were you already in Fort Lauderdale, I assume?
Yeah.
Then? Okay.
I was.
So did you look at the market and say, there's a hole in the market where I can fill a need? Or what attracted you to that?
The answer is used machinery. So what happened is I've done mine, to this day, no question. I sell Dexter. I've made a point to put something there from Dexter. I don't want to put brands or anything. But at that time, all I'd ever done was rehab with used machinery. Right?
Interesting.
So I would buy stores on the cuff. Not on the cuff so much as on the, the speculation, because I'd pay lower than what somebody else might. I could put them in a warehouse, wait until my place was ready. I would fill it up there, and it worked for me really well. But what had happened was anytime I did a deal, I'd have machines left over, and I don't want to spend rented warehouse space. So I always told myself I'd give myself 60 days. And after 60 days, whatever's left over, I'll figure out. And I could always, maybe the 4 or 5 times I did it, I was able to sell them within like a week or two. Like, it was easy to sell the machines. So I knew that there was a market for used machinery. And then I looked around. I'm pretty, in my banking days, besides just being a salesman, I became an arbitrageur. I was selling interdealer, corporate and municipal bonds on a retail platform. Okay, so I could see them, I could see the difference in the markets. And so I looked at the U.S. on a map. I'm pretty good. When I look at things, I take a map out and kind of, I like to see it physically. And I can notice that there was and there is still to this day, one of my mentors, Jim Schultz at Midwest Laundries. Matter of fact, he's my #1 mentor. We go back for years and years. And a competitor, I lose deals to him. He loses once in a while to me, but he's great. So that he was doing a great job. There's Mike Geckelman he does a great job too at Superior Laundry Equipment in Brooklyn. And then there's somebody on the West Coast that is good, but maybe not as good as maybe there's a little bit of room for an improvement. And that was it in terms of major players. There was another secondary, tertiary, and quaternary players, but none of them really of any significant market size.
And this is for used equipment.
Used equipment only at this point. Now, today, I would add that you'd have guys like folks, not even guys, like Triad, who's doing a fantastic job. Not quite at scale yet, but they will be. And they're like, these guys are pros all the way through. We've done business on a handshake more times than I can tell you.
Yeah, they're good people. We actually had them on the podcast
Yeah.
about 10 episodes ago. Really good people.
Yeah, every bit of it. Every bit of it. I'm telling you, as a person that does business with them.
Yeah.
So back to the things. So in the map, there was nobody in the South. There was no one in Texas. There's no one in Florida. I figured I have that space. So this was long before we thought that we were doing any internet. So that was what I believe to be the demand for market, because even if I just did as is, I could more than, I could have a good return, really healthy margins, and it was easy. I believe I could do it. And that turned into an idea with my partner, Josh. I told him I needed a thing to do, and it was his idea for the distribution part of it. And then we found absolutely one of the top 3 at the time, best parts people in the country that we could find. I visited so many people, and we talked to them, gave them a reason to do it, because we'd heard that parts is the most difficult part to keep somebody on, because you're dealing with thousands of details daily. And yet, as a relative term of dollars for the effort, it's hard to do. Whereas you could sell a machine and make much more money and do a fraction of the effort.
Okay.
And so we knew that we could start with a core basis, which was used machinery, parts, service. And we're already in Fort Lauderdale. We already have stores and we know the market, and that turned into it. Self-financed by our briefcase, right? And we've never borrowed a single penny from the distribution side because of the many distributors that are my mentors. It's one of those places where you could have bad years. And you can. I'll tell you what else we did that I'm particularly proud of. We're over-financed intentionally, so we don't ever want to have to worry about getting money for a deal quickly. And the other thing we did was we had a one-page plan that we still use for when things go bad. And in particular, when things got bad, for COVID, within a week, maybe 2 at the most, we were implementing that plan. And it really, I think, I know it did really well for us. We were prepared for that long before it happened. Like right now, inflation's the one. We've already got our inflation plan in place, and it's happening right now. So, we've been pretty good about forethought and making sure that we had enough money available when we needed it, because that could be an issue for a lot of people. Those are the reasons we liked it. We opened up 2,000 square feet. Our briefcases building, turned into 4, turned into, and now, we've got a pretty big operation. We do, 75, 80 used machines certified a month, plus we sell some as is, where, we have a healthy parts business. And we're pretty active, man. We build stores, we do stores, you
do new equipment as well?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So we have a very limited trade area. So we do Broward and Palm Beach counties, which is very small. I'm not sure where there is. I don't want to be like a self-promoting, but I can tell you this for facts. And I will gladly at your event talk to anybody for as long as they want and prove it to them. I looked at every used machine, and to me as an owner, the number one thing is I want the machine to run as much as possible. So what are the least repairs? So I would ask the guys every couple of days, because I'm a freak, what machines do you like? What machines don't you like? Why did you choose it? And I can go through piece by piece of what makes the machines that I sell better in terms of the thickness of the stainless steel, the grade of stainless steel, right? Because it's like 304 versus 208, and 304 has a higher grade of nickel. And I literally have these reports, like I'm that kind of a freak. Or like conformal coating, which is the spray. All of them do it, but conformal coating is the spray that you put on electronics so that they are less, they're more resistant to heat and moisture, right? Like I can go on and on and on. I have a durometer which measures the density and of rubber. I've got like every tool you can imagine that can make a measurement. I had a test lab to do 100 and 200 G. Like, this is how much of a freak. I have every number. And I think it's bad. Here's something I'd like to call out. I'm going to call BS on something. It's not a particular manufacturer, but industry-wide. The minute that you could change your machine with a digital control and you could program it, that is the last time there was a step up in efficiency. And I challenge somebody to prove me wrong. Okay, so when Speed Queen did it with the EC control back in the 90s, right? Now, there are some exceptions in that if the control module didn't give you all the variables, that could be some of it. But once I could get down to 2 rinses or 2 baths or 3 baths, whatever you want to call them, and I could tell the machine how much water to put in, there's no difference, because that tub today, that EC2 tub right now, you went through the EC2s, the NC2s, you had the MD2s, you had all the MDs, you then had the BC control, which is also AC for the upgrade, and even now in the SCNs, right? You got the same footprint, you have the same tub, you have the same outer drum. So how are you going to tell me there's an efficiency in water? You can't. People say, oh, well, now it's no. Now, there could be a counter argument made that Waskemat's drain valve holds the water toward the tub at the very bottom of the sump a little bit, but you're talking fractions, not even of a gallon, fractions of a whatever.
Well, I'm curious your thoughts on this because I'm not, I didn't understand half of what you just said. And Carla didn't understand any of it. That's okay. No, there are people out there that do. This isn't about us. This is about them. And I think it's fascinating, but I'm curious your thoughts on this. And one of the things I love about you is if you disagree with me, you'll disagree with me.
Yeah. Don't worry.
And we're not here for a debate. We're here to bring people value. But my point is, this is how I've run my businesses. This is how I've been successful. Doesn't mean it's the only way. I've always said like that. And what I'm getting at is what you just said is that it's insignificant. So why focus on it? Why obsess over it? That's the way I've always looked at these things because there are such bigger things that we could be focusing on in our stores and our operations and our scalability, not just infrastructure, not just operations, but I'm amazed how many people will obsess over the difference in 15% and 14% of natural gas usage or something like that.
Wait a minute now.
And I'm like,
let me defend it. First of all, I agree 100%, but let me defend the person that's not in the room. All right. I'm first getting into the business. I don't know the difference of what's right and what's wrong. And I'm a control freak. So I need to gravitate to numbers, right or wrong. I don't have somebody telling me what is or isn't, no matter how many books I read. By the way, hold on one second. This guy's not even around, but this was my go-to book of all time. I still have it as a reference.
How have I never heard of that book?
Are you kidding me? The Road to Financial Independence by Emerson Higdon. Oh my gosh, you're gonna love it.
Yeah.
All right, I'm surprised.
All right, Todd says it's
not
good
promoted.
book, guys.
I'll tell you why, Dave. Because it's not promoted. It used to be in the back of the CLA magazine, and they don't promote it much anymore. But what a book! And there are others that are equally good, but that's one of my favorites. I remember looking at just the most silliest of numbers, like the percentage of people that came into like revenue of whatever, and it was like I didn't know what to do and what not to do. So while you're right. Now let's talk about let's say I'm still the control freak and I figured out some of the basics, but now I'm looking at my expenses. First of all, doing it twice a year just makes sense, right? You just don't have to obsess. You just got to look at it, make sure it's within line, do what you can and move on. Now, if you only have 1 or 2 stores and you got a lot of time on your hands, sure, do what you want. That's the way to go. It's not about the dollars. It's about the pride, the sense of like, I'm the best at what I'm doing. And I have my partner, Josh, if he's done anything, he has shown me that good enough is good enough. And that's so hard for me. Like, dude, I have to like pull myself away because it's my nature. I always did the best I could at the expense of better opportunities. I'm guilty, right? So whatever it might've been.
Yeah. Well, my point has always been on that topic is that there's way too many people. It's not an either or proposition, right? Like focusing on customer service, scalability, satisfaction, reviews, your reputation, those things are all important, right? So it's not an either or proposition. What I always tell people is if you're sitting around obsessing over the minor things, when you haven't taken care of the macro things, then you're focused on the wrong thing. And that's really been my point. And so what I did I started with stores in the worst condition you can possibly imagine. And only until 4 or 5 years ago were they anything other than average, to be honest. And so I always focused on what moves the needle the most. What's the big thing? I was never focused on these little things. And it wasn't a me or you competition. It was what makes us successful. And so my advice to people has always been focus on the macro, get the big picture stuff down first.
What does that mean? Hold on. I'm a new person.
Yep.
Please, for the listeners and me.
Yep.
Like how do I know?
I'd say we focus on, obviously there's the bar, right? We focus on clean, safe environment, but then we take it a step further we really focus on customer service, training our attendants to really be there for our customers and providing consistent, friendly customer service. Because I feel like that's where a lot of the laundromats lack, is providing that customer service, making someone not just feel safe, but feeling welcomed, feeling helped, Yeah.
We can view, here's the thing. We can view our business as a commodity, or we can view our business as a service business. That's what it boils down to. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong. The beauty of being in business for yourself is you get to choose what your business looks like, and I get to choose what mine looks like. And guess what? We're both right. But when it comes to challenging each other and growing the industry and elevating the industry, we can say, okay, are we gonna stay in the path and the mentality of I'm a commodity, meaning I'm four white walls and either the washer works or it doesn't. Or we can approach it and say controls matter, experience matters, layout matters. I tell people all the time, I'm like, for some reason, operationally, we say in this industry that there's two ways to run a laundromat: unattended and attended. And we assume that all unattended laundromats operate the same way. Well, we know that's ridiculous, right? We know people that operate unattended laundromats in just an amazing way. And we know a lot of people that I could not get out of bed and do a better job, right? Well, we have unattended situations that way as well. We have people that are hiring anyone. I call them a body. They have a body in the store. They have a pulse. They pay a minimum wage. They provide them with no training. Day one, they hand them a rag and a spray bottle, and they say, keep it as clean as you can. And if the person plays on their phone for 6 hours, they don't know the difference. Like it's what is it? It's leadership through abdication, right? all they're trying to do is push the in their mind. They're trying to justify the fact that they did X. They're trying to check a box. And what I tell people is, I'm not interested in the past. I'm interested in the future. And for some reason, not our industry, but our world has lost sight of something that used to be foundational in business, which is servitude. It's serving others. And I know you well enough, and I know your heart, and I know your passion to know that you're one of the top equipment distributors in the country because you care.
I don't know about that. I really
and
don't.
It's a relative thing.
It's
a relative thing.
Most well liked
right?
and most sought after in terms of advice. That could be,
Yeah.
but definitely not volume.
Well, and the fact of the matter is that's much more important in my opinion. We can also chase gross versus net operating income.
That's a whole other story.
Who's more successful?
Let me make a couple of points. First of all, of course, what you're saying is I'm on board. Mm-hmm. I want to make the opposite argument. Well, first of all, let me tell you how much of a schmuck I am and where I think I'm serious, where my partner Josh has really, shown me the light, not because I saw it and it was a moment. He just pulled my teeth until I stopped screaming because it was great. I feel like the kid that doesn't want to touch the water. Their parents take him and they're screaming. They touch the water like, oh, wait a minute. Wait, this is nice. And that's what it feels like. I mean this. When my first store, there's a lot of car dealerships in my area, so I spent the better part of a month and a half, maybe about a week doing a campaign. I was thinking about one out, drawing it out myself, doing it all, printing it, and then about a month of visiting all the car dealerships and offering them, some discounts for wash dry fold. And I did a great job. I got about 20% increase in my wash dry fold. I was really proud of it, and it was, it was feather in my cap. I did a good job. Mm-hmm. And Josh is like, dude, you're talking about a couple $100. Right? Because I just bought a second store. I'm making, whatever that number is. And he was right. I couldn't see it at the time. I could see that I wasn't maximizing my personal time. You always talk about it in terms of, investing in your business, or you work, what are you doing here? Are you running a business, or are you in the business? So I respect it. And I thought to myself, well, that's just wrong. Now, not that I necessarily agree, but I'd like to make the counter argument on stores. So if I'm going to make, $100 for the year on the store, and because I'm apathetic about it, instead of making 100, I make 87. Okay. But I choose to have 10 more stores, and each of them are run with, instead of giving them 10 hours a week, I give them 2. What's a better deal, right? What's the better thing in terms of total dollars, right? My partner Josh will tell you, dude, we want all unattended stores, clean, spotless as you could possibly get, always bright, all the machines running. But after that, that's it. That's our game. To the point where we don't even have, in many of the stores, I probably shouldn't say this, but we don't even have our phone number up. Mm-hmm. Unattended store, you got to call the cops. Cops have our number. We don't get a lot of calls. Now, is that the best? Of course not. Is that, best in class? It's not. Is that the best quality of life? I think an argument could be made. Now, to this day, I don't run them like that. Josh does all the day-to-day in the stores. I don't know that my heart, as much as I believe him, and I know I've seen the numbers and I know he's right, I don't know that I could let my heart do that in terms of it, because I still wear it on my sleeve. Mm-hmm. And I think that's one of the reasons I focus on distribution. There's a sense of pride to all of it, more than just the dollars. And to me, that's important.
Yeah. We don't chase the profit. Instead, we want to, as Dave always says, elevate the industry. We're really focused on, we feel like if we deliver a quality service to the community, the money's going to eventually come. And so far, that's worked for us. So are we always the most profitable store out there? No, we're not. But over time, we're getting to that point. And part of that's too with vertical integration, and we're adding more services and stuff like that. But It's more important to us that we serve the community. So,
Well, and here's
Right.
another way of looking at it. Your description in that environment, there's not a drastic difference in those two things, right?
How do you mean? I don't
What
follow.
Well, in your description of your value proposition for the community and relative to your price, there's not a drastic difference, right?
I'm not 100% sure I'm following. Like, in other words, we're the low price leader, the cleanest, nicest, most beautiful. Lights look great. You know,
Mhm.
you're not going to find many things broken, if at all.
Mhm.
That we're offering. We're just not giving you the service aspect or the personal aspect. We're
Right.
giving you the environment.
and
Right.
that's what we're not the low price leader.
Right. But
Oh,
what
yeah,
if I
neither
could,
are we. Even on
but,
the unattended
but,
stores. We're
but
not
all
interested.
I'm asking is, and this is a fantastic discussion, by the way, because I'm not saying you're wrong, but what I'm saying is, what if the difference, and I would love to talk to your partner about this, but what if the difference is 100%? So you said the difference in 87%
Sure. I'm making up a number.
87,
Yeah.
yeah, 87 and
I
a
don't-
dollar. What if the difference is $2.87?
I mean, it'd be worth it to absolutely. If
Because
that's
because
possible.
here's what it boils down to. I started at the bottom of the industry. That's what I bought. I evolved in our operations through what I call the commoditized laundromat, which is what you're describing. And I don't say that in a negative way at all. That's not what I'm
At
saying.
all, right?
It's
Right.
a
We're
different
selling utilities.
it's a different
Bundling
business.
utilities.
It's a
Yeah.
different business model. That doesn't make it wrong or right. It's just different. But what people in the industry don't understand is I eventually got to know and networked with some of the top operators in the industry. And that's a relative term. It's not like we get gold medals for it, right? I mean, I'm just making this stuff up. But people that are operating at the elite of the elite of the elite. And when people see their facilities and they see their team and they see their payroll and their staffing and what they cost to build a store. But so my point in that is it in relative terms, we as an industry at least some have sold a bill of goods to people. That bill of goods to people is if you take your business model and your value prop to a different level, your what you can charge is not commensurate with that. And so there's a big misconception out there in the industry that the people operating at the top of the industry, and this means the way I calculate that is operations, okay, 5-star operations, not facilities, operations, staffing, infrastructure, things like that. And yes, your store is a part of that situation. When you take those two things together, they're not competing with you. You're in a different industry. You're in a different business.
Yes.
And the value prop that they bring to the community is different, and what you charge is different. And what I have learned through evolving through this and talking to hundreds, if not thousands, of laundromat owners on both sides of this equation, what I've learned is the people that operate at the top of the industry that all these people think are not making any money are making more money than the commoditized laundromats. And so what ends up happening, because you talked about lifestyle and that's important to us, right? What ends up happening is some of the not so smart ones, they work themselves to the bone to make a little bit more money. And you're saying that's not a smart thing to do, and I would agree with that. But what I tell people is some of the best operators in this industry that operate what I call 5-star laundry centers, what they do is they build a team. See, because we now, and we haven't always been here, we have a team of 40 employees that run our operations. We're a multi-million-dollar operation, and we don't ever work in our businesses. How do we do that? We charge significantly more. Our ROI is significantly more. Our margins are a lot higher, and we take a percentage of that and reinvest it back in something that this industry for years has told people they can't do. And what that is build layers of management within their operation. This industry has told people for as long as I've been around, you can't do that. The laundromat industry doesn't make enough margin to justify layers of management. And my retort to that is I've lived at the bottom, in the middle, and at the top, and I've studied all of them for over a decade. And when you're running a commoditized laundromat that's 4 white walls and the washers and dryers either work or don't, you're correct. You cannot afford layers of management. So it affects your lifestyle. But what I tell people is what I learned as I evolved to the top of the industry is we provide a different level of service and quite frankly, an almost different industry. We charge prices that are commensurate with that, and we reinvest a portion of those profits back into layers of management, which gives me and my wife and my family the lifestyle that we want. So it's not whether one operator is right, wrong, or indifferent, which sometimes that's what people think. That's not what it's about. What it's about is I want to show the industry that there's more than one way to do this. There's more than one way to run a laundromat, and it's your business. Like you choose what works for you.
From my experience, that very few people take it as a senior executive in the C-suite rather than a hands-on day-to-day. I think you make up less than a couple of percent, and that's being generous. I mean, you see it differently than most of us. I mean, included. I mean, in terms of store operations, not distribution.
And all I want to do is show people, because here's the thing. I didn't invent this. This isn't my idea. People taught me this.
Of course.
That's the thing. People taught me this. People that were already doing it. The difference is the people that were already doing it, they were really quiet about it. And I want to tell everybody. Now, if that's not the business model for you, Todd, that's okay. It doesn't matter to me what your business is.
Right.
I just want you to know about your opportunities. And that's really what it boils down to.
Which is even people that have been on your show that are multi-generation laundry owners, and certainly my partner, John, holding information up until maybe 10 years ago was what you had to do, was what was expected of any business person always, right? It was that I know you don't type thing. Now, with the advent of the internet, things have changed, obviously. And now it's about giving them a piece of it and then letting them follow through with all the bigger details. It is hard for anybody over 50 years old to see that perspective, not to understand it, because there are some, but I see that, like you're saying here, it is a different world and we're not doing it. I have an acquaintance working with a large, they're implementing a sale, I don't know what you'd call it, like a Salesforce. It's a different product for a very large chain, a regional chain of hundreds of stores. And they couldn't believe that even though this company is 60 years old, they were still doing, up until right now before the transition, their payroll proverbially by hand. I mean, it was called in, somebody had to write it down. It wasn't done with the system. And this is a 20-something-year-old saying, how could that be? Well, no, because the business wasn't run from the back end. It was run because they make the world's best burgers, right? And there were so many things that can be automated that I'm watching you do that are so simple that none of us want to. Zoom's a perfect example. We were forced onto Zoom, even though it was there years before, but we don't use it. I intentionally brought this book thinking of you, because people ask me what I'm reading and I never remember. I'm always like frozen. I haven't read this in a couple of years, but the 4-Hour Workweek, I imagine you've seen it. And I think of you a lot because even though I'm not doing it, although we do a little bit with India, there were so many things that if you just took a shot at it, right? I think to myself, there are so many tools that will make so much of what we do daily and we have to do so easy, but there's no 14-year-old showing it to us, and you are. I mean, for real. I mean, man, I love saying this, and I don't care who's going to hear it, and I'm sure I'm going to get backlash for all this. But I am active in the industry, and I'm a director of the Coin Laundry Association, and I love it, as you well know. We have these talks all the time. If we were to spend more time sending up the content than we were about whatever else it might be, the better off we would be. And because you have done it, we are envious at times. Okay. And I'm not speaking for the whole board. I'm speaking for myself, I should say. I am envious. I'm not speaking for the board in any way whatsoever today. But I'm envious, right? It's easy enough to do. And no one's saying that. You're not saying, look, I'm the world's best of anything. I'm up here doing it. You can do it too. Nobody's stopping you. And yet, because you've had the courage, the foresight, and the guts to actually take that one step into this digital world, look at all of this. Do you know what it would take for you to reach this kind of an audience one by one, like I've tried to do? Like, I'm saying? It's not even close. It's night and day. Yep. It's the difference between going to a message board or it's showing up on your Facebook page or your LinkedIn page because that's what you're first fed in the morning. It's that simple. All right. So as you talk to me about all these things, which I'm on board for, and quite frankly, I think I got a lot to learn from you. A lot. Just because it's simple doesn't mean it's not highly effective. And it's hard to understand that. I have a pretty big email list, right? And I send out things all the time. I was sitting on it for a couple of years, and it's way more than 10,000. Okay. And I was sitting on it. Then one day I finally decided to do it. Now I send out ads and the response has been overwhelming. I couldn't, as one person, make as much in sales from those emails as I would from, person to person, the best salesman around. I mean, it's so much of this going on, Dave, and none of us are doing it. I'm certainly way behind. And I think I'm at the head of the group in terms of, people doing stuff like, I'm pretty active on some of the, the newer social media and Discords and the NFTs and all that. I keep an eye on it for the fun of it.
Well, let me give you an example, and I'm not afraid to be transparent. We have a store that I won't start when we bought it because it was just a dump when we bought it. So that's not fair.
They all were dumps.
They were. So we have a store.
I mean, they're good. Yeah.
We have a store that it doesn't matter which one, but we have a store that once we got it to what I would call a commoditized laundromat, and I don't mean that negatively, by the way. It is what it is, right?
Yes.
Once we got it to that point, it had nice equipment that worked. It was a nice facility. It was nothing special, but it was clean. It was actually attended. We had a good staff in place. The store was generating a gross revenue of, let's call it $200,000 a year. Okay. We took that store to a $1.2 million a year store. Didn't buy
but
any
some of
more
that was
equipment.
washed folders at this coin.
Didn't both. We almost doubled our self-serve revenue.
It's amazing.
And so what people need to understand is they look at that and they say, well, I'd rather make 200 and work 2 hours a week than make 220 and work 4 hours a week. And I say, you're missing the boat. You're missing the point here. I don't care what you do. It doesn't matter to me. I just want you to hear what the message. I want people to hear the opportunity out there. Doesn't matter to me what you do. There's not a right and a wrong way to do this. There's just your way of doing things. But for some reason, the 10, 12 years we've been in the industry, there's been a good portion of the industry that is telling people that people like me aren't making any money. And I'm like, that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life.
I've never
because the funny thing about that is I just talked about gross revenue, but those are both around a 30% margin.
I believe you.
So when you take that, and I'm not talking about putting it all in your pocket, we reinvested a good portion of that back in layers of management, which is why we can do what we do. It's why I can spend years writing a book, creating a podcast, creating e-courses, which we're coming out with soon, launching conferences, things like that. People can't figure out how I do it. And it's like, because
wait, hold on. You're full of piss and vinegar. I hope that I am too. Take the average, respect. And I am too. But think about the majority of our contemporaries, right? There's only a certain percentage of people they're motivated. Most are just happy. Look, half the competition, based on every report ever, half of the people in the industry do it as a part-time gig. Right. So I've already blown out half the doors. Right. And the other ones that are doing it, most of them are doing it kind of like there are only so few. And because of it, because we're not all fighting for the last penny, when you get ideas like these, people don't want to hear it because they don't, I'm saying, everything is the way it's always been. And it's hard for them to hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
And it was a process. It was hard work. I mean, a big part of why that jumped so much is that we added pickup and delivery, and we did a lot of advertising and created commercials and worked with a professional advertising agency. And I mean, there's a lot of things we did that got those numbers up where they are. But now, I mean, there was a lot of work that went into it and there was a lot of headaches, but now we can sit back, we can leave for a couple of weeks and know our stores are fine.
All right, I'm making fun of my friend Ken. Ken, so Ken, I love Ken, by the way. He had his own thing. I'm sure you'll talk to him at some point. He's just, I will say this. He is, in my opinion, the smartest person I've ever met in our industry. And I'm not saying he's the best at laundry or the best of anything else, but anything that you give him, he will have an answer for you relatively quickly, and he can do just about anything. So you can only get to say that once. I'm saying that about Ken Barrett, and he is a friend of mine. He is a fellow overthinker and co-conspirator in, Workaholic. And so is Dan Marazza, for that matter. And I can go on and on and on. But Ken, like me, we wanted to grab every penny that we could, right? And doing it ourselves means that we're saving money, at least in our heads it is, rather than the realities of having a team to do it. And he and I are guilty. So he was mentioning, as a friend, just like, he's got the small wash dry fold, but it's taking up so much time. I'm like, dude, why don't you get rid of it? And, logic, of course, he understood the logic, but in his soul, he couldn't own it. And I understand that. Finally, he did. And he would call up and say, freak you, Fener, freak you, I hate you. And, all the wonderful, kind things you could say to your friend who did it. Now, something else has come up right now, so that for the last several weeks, it might even be more than a month, he's not been able to be at his store. He had to go do something. He has to do something. And funny enough, his store's still there. The people that he trusts are doing a good job. And he hasn't been to the store in weeks. And it's not because he'd ever have the fortitude to do it, as I might not have, but because he had to. And now he couldn't be, you could spend that time doing anything you want.
It's releasing control of your baby.
Yeah, but it's hard.
There's a lot of owners that want hands and everything to make sure that it's okay.
I'm the guy. It took forever to pull me away from that. It did. It took a lot of. It was emotion. It wasn't. Of course, you're right logically, but we're not logical people. We're emotional people, despite what we may kid ourselves. And so, it's not so easy just because I know it. There's also the part of having the ability to do it. And luckily, I was pulled there as opposed to
And there's the time that it takes to train somebody else to do it. Like there's so often it's like, it's just easier to do it myself, but that's not a good long-term plan.
I always compare it to raising kids, which not everybody has done, but we have. I always compare it to raising kids. I'm like, you know what? It's a lot easier for me to wrap that present for the 6-year-old than to teach them how to wrap a present. But guess what? When they're 16, they're going to know how to wrap the presents, and I won't need to do anything. Now, maybe that's a terrible example. You could use that for making lunch or
I think
whatever. And once again, if your goal isn't for that child, well, I'm talking about my business now, if your goal isn't for that to grow, that's okay. It's your business. It's your baby. You get to decide what it looks like. What I don't want to happen and what I'm determined to do something about is for all these perceptions that are wrong, that people believe are right, I want to bring to the forefront, and I want to have a conversations about, and I'm willing to do it in the open. And my attitude is really simple. I know I'm right. How do I know I'm right? Because I don't like absolutes, because I've done it. And I'm not the only one. The reason I was able to do it is because other people before me that wanted to be quiet about it, they did it too. And by networking and attending conferences and building relationships and having phone calls like you and Ken, they taught me. Now, they didn't teach me all at once. I didn't hire anybody and fly out and see them. It was little nuggets of information, and I took from everybody in the industry, and I brought these things together, and I created a business model that works and is scalable and repeatable. And all I want the industry to know is that you can do it. If you don't want to, if you don't have the desire to, she talked about the hard road. Trust me, it was a couple years. It was a couple years of investing 6 figures and not seeing a return. And we weren't guaranteed we would see a return. So not everybody has the stomach for that. Not everybody has the 6 figures for that. That's okay too. I'm not here to tell you that I'm right in the sense of you should do that. I'm here to tell you that I'm right, that you can do that if you choose to.
Right. You know it works because you did it.
Sure.
Right.
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
I wanted to mention the I don't have it at the moment on my wall, but I've had it many for years. It was a picture of cavemen, and there's a guy, 2 guys over a square, look like a square wheel, and then there's a guy who has a wheelbarrow that's pushing the wheel, and he goes, "We're too busy to discuss the wheel. We're too busy." That's the idea is that they're too busy to understand what the wheel is.
Yeah.
And I'm guilty of that. I think it's more emotional than logic and reason, and I hope that I'm open to it when I can be. But
Yeah.
it
Well,
can be hard. It's emotional.
I appreciate the conversation, because while we were obviously here to talk about your story, this kind of stuff brings people a ton of value. We can call them debates, arguments, whatever we want.
Yeah, whatever. It doesn't matter.
These types of discussions are really valuable for the industry to hear. And once again, if you want to run a commoditized laundromat, I'm not putting that down. If you're running a dump and you're predatory on your community, then we got a problem.
That's different. No,
right. But if you're running a different business model, there's nothing wrong with that, guys.
Look, it's all about networking, man. That's it. Because you're going to always learn. No matter who it is, you'll always learn. And the one thing I've noticed is there's 2 types of networkers. And I find this in most industries. And I got it from Bobby Flay. The one who says to Bobby Flay, "Listen, can you teach me how to be a great barbecue chef?" Well, what does that mean? It's like, practice, right? That's the answer. And it is, it's practice. Then there's the other one who says, yesterday I burnt my ribs. I was doing them at 425 in an altitude of 3,000. That's the guy you want to talk to. In other words, there's the new investor who needs to learn. You got to come to the courses and do it all. But the one you want to spend 3 hours is the fellow person. It doesn't matter that you knew. It makes no difference. You could easily, and you get such great joy out of sharing with them the headache you made. I didn't even know what a lint trap was until mine overflowed. I didn't know. How do you know? I didn't know.
Yeah.
Right. I swear that's the only way I found out. And so I can give you millions of examples of networking, but for today's one, I wanted to put something out. Besides all the money that people got, a year ago, they have a targeted economic injury disaster loan. Are you familiar with it?
Yep.
Okay. It's 10 grand, right? Look at this, 30% less over 8 weeks. It's still available. I mean, if that's all you got, that's 10 grand. Plus, if it was 50% decrease and you're in the map, it's another 5 grand. That's networking. How do I know? Or how about enterprise zones where after 10 years in a day, it's tax-free? Those things don't come up in everyday lessons. They don't come up on the websites all the time. It happens when you're talking to friends and they give you ideas about it. Or, water savings, or whether 200, I'm a huge fan of 200G, and I'll fight anybody that tells me otherwise. 200G is the way to go. You don't save anything on water, but you certainly save on dry time and how much gas you use. And that's a fact. It doesn't matter the brand. Yeah. I do disagree with the industry in terms of how long a dryer lasts. I see that a lot. I think a decent dryer lasts you 20, 25 years easy, and they put it down for 15. I think dryers aren't the problem. It's washers, because dryers don't have that much that can break. I don't think we've done much about business so much as kind of fun talking. I'm loving it.
No, it's fantastic. We're gonna run out of time here. Before we do, can you tell people about Laundry Owners Warehouse? And I'm not saying listen, I'm not saying a commercial. Okay, I know that's you're not gonna like the self promotion.
I'll tell you about it. I'll tell you.
No, what I want you to do is tell us about your team, the organization, what you
Oh
all
my
do,
gosh.
and how it can value our audience. Because I know that you do a lot on your website, which means we could not be in Broward County, and you still have value to bring to this industry.
Oh, dude, that's all right. So Laundry Owners Warehouse, dude, what makes us a team? We have a shared goal and a shared vision, and it's more than that. Look, everybody likes to say you're part of the family. We're not a family. We're a team. We're a business team, but that is real and that matters. I have relationships right now with Kenny Hummel and Brenda Toledo, who don't work here anymore. They went on to different things that were better for them. I am friends with both of them. I spend time with them. That's not everybody. We have a lot of people who have been here since day one. We have certain things. Everything is transparent. If I'm doing it, you're going to know. Okay, it's accountable. Here's your job, here's his. I'm not going to yell at you, scream at you, or anything else. We're just going to discuss it and figure out how to make it happen. The person doing the job makes the decision. In other words, I'm not going to tell you what kind of broom to mop. I'm not going to tell you what type of tools to use. They'll tell me those things. We try and hire people that are much smarter than us and let them guide us whenever possible. We hire lots of third-party consultants, more than most people do. In other words, I'll pay a guy $5,000 for the day to listen to him, and then I'll do what he says without question. And I'm not trying to promote you, but some of the times, whether it was the internet or something else that we were working on, we just took the best person that we could find. We believed it. And then we paid them, and we did it without reservation, even though we had some of our own thoughts. We're like, look, that's our baggage from before. How about we hired the pro, we listened to him. And that has been
experts.
Yeah, but it's not so easy always, because you want to second guess them, and somehow better, right? It kind of. I mean, I'm still guilty of that. Another thing we look for is simplicity in process. So that, we always try and remove any unnecessary steps. And that comes up more than you might think. Nothing is ever good enough. Everything is, we're proud of the work that we do, and we love it, and we have lots of fun, but it's also effort, and it's never good enough. We're always on top of, not always. We'll buy or sell any product so like if somebody can come up with a better deal that they can get from a manufacturer, we want to hear it. We just want to be in the game discussing price, buy or sell, because you never know, and things change all the time. I'm not sure that 150-pound washers are going to work, or 125 pounds. I'm so interested, and I can't wait to see them, and I want to be part of it. I'm not the guy that jumps in first. I'm going to wait just a little bit to see if the market will play it out. And another thing that we do a lot of is we stick to our relationships. And what I mean by that is, like, take a company like R&B. They've been around for however many years, third, fourth generation. And people came in a couple of years ago trying to, pretty much take $10 off per cart or $15 off and make a knockoff cart. And it would have been easy to try and save some money. But the difference is that this person's been supporting the industry forever and ever and ever. And they have been every bit of the word they said they were. Now, we don't have a lot of returns, but anytime we don't get a headache. There isn't a story. There isn't here's your cart. Sorry for the trouble. Always. And to me, that's worth something. Now, I'm not saying I'm going to pay triple the amount, but I do take that into consideration. If I've got a good vendor that's consistent and I can trust them, I'm willing to pay them a fair market price, even if it's a few dollars more for the consistency. And that wasn't easy. The cheap Jew in me doesn't ever want to have to do that. I want to fight for every last penny of it. And I say that with pride, by the way.
Well, I happen to know for a fact you're not cheap, but anyways.
So, when it comes to the team, man, we meet. Our meetings are less than 10 minutes. If we have time afterwards, we can talk personal, whatever else, but there's a point to be made, and we make it. There's no fluff. We kind of cut that out. We still have plenty of personal time. We get together. We have a lot of events. And I think that if you asked anybody in the team, what they would tell you is that I listen to them. Although I might be a big mouth and a talker, I listen to people, and I know what they're saying. And I do my best to hear what they're conveying, not necessarily the words. Because a lot of time when somebody's upset, they're upset about something, and it's not necessarily what's being said. So I try and acknowledge that and say, what I'm hearing is, what I think I hear is whatever it is that's really bothering them, what I think might be bothering them, rather than what they might be saying. Like, somebody parked too close to my car, but it might be something else that I know about them. And another thing we do is, everyone always asks, well, how am I doing? How am I doing? But like, I have people on the team, and I write this stuff down, who are quiet, and they don't ever really complain, but every now and again, they get passive aggressive. And they might do something like a machine will drop, and it could be very expensive. And conscious or subconscious, it's happening. And before, I kind of just ignored it because it really wasn't. They weren't really in my, on my radar, because they don't really complain much. And then I realized that I could tell by just watching them when they were starting to be a little bothered. and I take the time now, and you can ask them, to ask them what's really going on. And they won't tell me for the first 30, 45 seconds or a minute, but after a minute or two, they do. And I acknowledge whatever it is, and I try and address it. And whether they like it or not, what I will do is I will immediately address whatever the issue is, try to come to a solution, obviously resolve it best I can. But then once I've made a decision, that's the way we're going to go. And I don't try and push it to that limit very often at all. But if need be, they believe in me that I'm trying my best. And they see me, first in, last out. They see I'm giving it everything I got.
Why do you think that is? Because what guys, I know I say this all the time. Carla cracks up laughing every time. Rewind and listen to that again, because there's an awful lot of wisdom. And what he's talking about is leadership. That's what he's talking about here. So when people say, I can't find good people, I can't keep good people, don't get me wrong. Sometimes people shouldn't stay. I get that, right? There's some bad apples in the world out there. But I'm a big fan of, if I can't keep people and I can't find people and I can't attract people, maybe I'm the problem. Maybe I'm not as good. Not that you're bad, but maybe you need to work on being a better leader. Because part of being a good business owner, which is what you're saying here, Todd, part of being a good business owner isn't always just watching your margins. You have to have a team. And whether it's 2 people or 200 people, you have to have a team. And you have to take care of those people.
They need to feel valued. They need to be heard.
That's right.
Exactly. And acknowledged, right? And goals that are tangible, so they feel like they've accomplished.
All people have to do is spend maybe an hour or two with Todd Fener, and you're going to figure out what kind of a heart he has, what kind of a guy he is. And he's transparent about the fact that he wasn't always the person he is today. Who of us was, right? I certainly wasn't. And so if we can leave our audience with anything today, and we're not always here to talk about widgets and washers and dryers. We're here to talk about business and leadership and servitude, and those things, they matter. Having different models, different business ideas, letting people choose based on their market, what's best for them. This is what this show is all about. So I know you may feel like we maybe didn't talk a whole lot about the widgets.
Yeah, I feel bad.
But
I had also
I
had notes, I had books. Wait, I got a few shout outs. Wait,
Todd,
1 second. Wait, where's the hats?
Todd.
Oh, yeah, here it is. So first of all, you can't go anywhere. These are my friends. I know Marcel, and that's all I need to say. There's the wash house.
There you go. It's Luke.
My brother. I have slept at his house. Can you all say that? Laundry Cares is another one.
Laundry Cares.
Dexter Laundry, because I sell them. And then I'm here somewhere. I got a hat here for us. Oh, finally, a little bit of a plug. There's us. All right.
We need to make you a Laundromat Millionaire hat.
Yeah.
All right. Bring it on.
Right.
Bring it on.
You know what that just reminded me of? The NASCAR drivers and their jackets. How they got all the patches everywhere and stuff like that, or their cars. No, that's awesome. Listen, I think you brought people today a lot more value than you think you did. Okay. And I know you're going to hear about this, hopefully from some people. And, I'll say it again. I said it in the beginning. I met a lot of good people at Elevate. I've met a lot of good people over the years. Todd's one of the good guys in the industry. And so if you don't know him, you need to get to know him. Because while he may do laundromats wrong, no. While he may do laundromats a little different than Dave Menz, the fact of the matter is he's a good dude and he's serving his community. And as long as you're doing that within your true business model with your heart, then you're serving people. So I'm not here to tell people that are unattended or run a commoditized laundromat that you're not serving people well. If you take that business model and you do it well, good for you guys. So if you understand my message is anything other than that, you've misunderstood me. And maybe that's partially on me. I'll look to be better and do better at that.
And there's plenty of people out there who need the low price leader.
Sure.
I mean, that's part of the
Everybody's
market
got their
too.
own model. You know what? I would like to, you've been kind enough to offer plugs myself, but I'm good. There is something I want to talk about, and that's Eastern Funding. They have given me so many opportunities I wouldn't have had on my own. Okay, so besides the fact that they help lend to laundromats, and you could probably get a better loan with an SBA, although it takes a lot longer. Those are facts.
Oh my gosh.
Brian, well, it's ridiculous. No, it's cheaper. That's nobody's about it, but it's a lot of headache. I mean, it is.
It is.
Yeah.
We've done that.
So right. Oh yeah. Right. And
Eastern
to be fair,
funding is way easier.
Right, but more than that, which is that's kind of like the business aspect of it. You take Grell. Okay, he's not doing it because he's getting tons of money, because he's the guy that's given every hour that he has. And he's first of all, my friend, my mentor. I love him. I love you, Brian. I love Liz. But more importantly, he gives everything he possibly has to it. And if all the people saw him and he was a little bit more active online, they'd all see what we've all been watching forever. You see it from him and how he does it. He'll travel anywhere in the world to help people. And he makes everybody's bathrooms nicer and every store nicer. And they don't get any shout outs because, the thing is, like, when you think of a bank, right, or a loaning, Eastern Funding, you think of, all right, here's the transaction. You're going to, here's your percentage, here's your money, take care. But nobody's ever thinking that a guy like you, Dave, or guys like Eastern, or people like Eastern Funding are making this huge difference and nobody's giving him love. But here's a guy that's still behind the scenes killing it in every single way. And I think if I'm going to give some shout out and some love, I think, he deserves a lot of it. All of Eastern, but especially Brian.
And come to the conference because he's
no zombies. Yeah, I'll make him.
No, he's there. He's already registered.
Oh, even better. Oh, yeah.
Todd, I mean, it's not a competition of who bought their tickets first, but he beat you. I'm just saying.
Damn you, Graham! Damn you!
I'm just saying. Anyway.
Do you want to say anything about the Friday night party too?
No, yes. Well, here it is. I admire you. I do. I think what you're doing is great. And for me, it's a great hookup because you're so close and it'd be great to network with people. So I actually did a little bit of math today. It is a 14-minute car ride. So by boat, it's about 25 minutes from the hotel area to, it's really my girlfriend's apartment building. It's not a private estate, but it's got this ridiculous, like 8,000 square foot living space with two pool tables and it's got a mini golf, not mini golf, a putting course. I mean, it's just a magnificent like hotel. No, really, it's got 2 espresso machines, Lavazza order. I mean, like, it's a thing.
That's fantastic. Well, for those of you that don't know what Todd and Carla were just talking about, I'm going to give Todd the credit that he deserves, even though he isn't comfortable with it. Because the fact of the matter is, guys, if you're not registered for the conference, you need to be there. That's not a secret, right? But here's the fact. Todd came to me the other day and he said, I believe so much in what you're doing and the conference that not only do I want to be there, but I want to throw an after party. And so Todd and his team at Laundry Owner Warehouse, for those of you that don't know, they're in Fort Lauderdale. Like we weren't joking when we said this conference is kind of happening in their backyard. And so he offered up at his own expense to sponsor the entire after party. And so the Laundromat Millionaire conference was originally going to end at 4 p.m. on Friday. And it's being extended into, I don't know, 3 a.m. if Todd keeps taking espressos.
At least. No, I mean, these are professional parties. And the weekend, I have friends that are already coming in for the weekend also. Yeah. It's a short boat ride. And also, like, I have a lot of friends and I'm, me too, in some cases, if you don't want to like take another boat ride back and take a half hour to get back, just hop in an Uber. It's on the ocean. It's, less than 15-minute drive from an Uber. So you don't want to be stuck somewhere, even though it's amazing, lots of fun. Mm-hmm. And I can assure you that there are very heavy-handed bartenders and, I'll have some great food.
Yeah.
Food, we're going to have so much fun. It's crazy.
Transportation, the facility right there on the water.
Yeah. Boat to boat, dock to dock.
Yeah. So kind of you to offer that up to the conference. Just brings that much more value for the people that can make it down there. So we're just very appreciative of that.
I do want to mention, so when I go to the clean shows, there's so much going on, right? That it's hard to really have a long conversation because everybody's got their 10-minute pitch that they're trying to share their wares or their thoughts or whatever. I get that. Versus like, an Elevate where you have one-on-one time. Mm-hmm. But during the clean show, I have done my best networking at the hotel bar at night. My best. I mean, by far. You might make a connection during the day and then see them at the hotel bar. So I do find that sometimes it's at drinks that something else happens. Your hair's down a little bit more. You might have wanted to say something to somebody, but I didn't really get to it. It just makes it so much easier because their hair's down. Everybody's laughing and having it makes it easier to network, I think.
Yeah, Todd? You can get past the small talk. I feel like in those little 5 minutes, it's kind of
Yeah, it's a little bit more formal. Yeah. Well, I appreciate you, my friend. I appreciate you coming on here. I cannot wait to spend a couple more days with you.
Yes.
And I just thank you for everything you have done for the industry because you're a very humble guy. But the fact of the matter is, when people are doing good things for, with, and in our industry, we need to push them to the forefront so that people in the industry can see what that looks like. And that's how these things compound, guys. It's not a me or him competition. It's an us.
Yeah,
we are driving the industry forward. That's what's happening. Our industry is evolving, and we want everyone. It's what the Laundromat Millionaire Conference. Our tagline: "Everyone's a VIP." The reason we did that is because we want everyone to understand that they can be a part of this. Now, I can't make you be a part of it. Yeah. I can't make you attend, but the fact of the matter is everyone is welcome. There's going to be a ton of value from the education and the networking is maybe going to be unlike anything this industry's ever seen. Like when you look at the guest list that's coming, these are people I know pretty well, and I just couldn't possibly be any more excited. The knowledge and experience from this industry that's going to be in the room, the relationships you can make, invest in those things, guys, because once again, I'll say it for the 100th time, this is how me and Carla got to where we are. I'm really not that smart of a guy. That's a fact. The fact of the matter is I'm just pretty good at networking, and I'll just keep talking until I wear people out.
Yeah.
All right. Well, listen, my friend, I cannot wait to see you at the March conference. Thank you for everything you do for our industry. For everyone at home, this has been another fantastic episode, and I'll go ahead and say it again just for Carla. Rewind this episode, guys. Listen to it again, because Todd was dropping some golden nuggets. So go back and look at them. Our industry isn't just all about washers and dryers, guys. Go back and listen to this again. Listen to this guy talk about leadership. Listen to him talk about heart. Listen to him talk about servitude, how he's built his business, the lessons he learned from his earlier life on Wall Street. All those things have made him who he is today and made him successful in a big way. And they can do the same for you. You just have to figure out where to fit those lessons into your life and make your life your life. I'm not trying to be Todd. Todd's not trying to be me. You go be you, but what we want you to do is we want you to be the best version of yourself. That's really what this show and the Laundromat Millionaire organization is really all about. So anyways, thank you all for being here. Until next time, we'll see you for another episode of the Laundromat Millionaire Show. Take care, everyone.
Yes.